And welcome 3C folks. I think this might be our last big note on HTML for the unit. And it is big. I want to sort of encourage you that we're learning lots of stuff about HTML, and it might be hard to keep stuff straight, but uh, looking back at these notes is important, and you can look at old web pages you've made to review, and don't be afraid to. You can always look back in Code Academy. I'll show you what I mean there. In Code Academy, um, that say this is the end of the HTML Basics 3, which probably if you're doing this note, this is about where you are. That if you ever wanted to look back, that you can go back here. This is my version, um, and click on the right track, and then all the stuff that you've done is there, right? Even if it's all done, you can look back and see those things again, right? So the header, what does that mean? Okay, dandy. So now I can look back. So don't be afraid to do that. That'll help you out. Again, in today's note, I'm doing it in Smart Notebook for no reason at all, except for that I can unveil it a little bit at a time. So you're welcome to just use a spreadsheet, or not a spreadsheet, a word processor, WordPerfect, Google Docs, whatever you like. Um, this, this track, the HTML Basics 3, was about tables mostly, and later on divs and spans. So that's what we're talking about today. And I'm gonna show you the whole thing. Maybe you'll pause this and type all this out. Um, let's do it this way. Okay. Uh, and it's the Code Academy sort of did it in little stages, but the big tags were the table tags, and then there were the head tags and body tags in each table. And it's really hard to sort of talk about these in general because we can make tables that have so many rows or so many columns and so on. We'll actually talk about this a little bit. So we see that there's the T head is like the head of the table, and the T body is like the body of the table. All right, and you can copy this. Remember, if I'm going too fast, just pause it, and you can get all the copying done. It's good to get it into your notes. Over here, I talk about the individual tags, um, and so in each of the parts that we have TR, and that stands for table row, and we'll get to those individual tags in a second. Then in each of those table rows, we have a number of entries. That's the TD or the TH, TH for table heading, TD for table data, D for data, I guess. And we could have any number of these. So I've chosen a table that has 3 rows. See, one, two, 3 rows, and 2 columns, 1 column, 2 columns, and then those are the entries below those, and we'll talk about this, what it means in a second. So um, again, you're pausing if I'm going too fast. What do the individual tags mean? The new tags that we saw, of course, were the table tags. Oops, I don't know why I did that. The table tags are the start and end tags for table structure. It's kind of like the HTML tags. It's like the granddaddy, the big opening and closing tags. And then we saw the T head and T body, the table head similar to head for the HTML tag. So this shows us that this stuff is for the table headings. And then the body are basically just markers where the table body is. Again, if I'm going too fast, you're pausing so you can catch up. T body, and essentially, I wanted these side by side, these two notes, just so I can look back and forth. This other thing you could probably have on another page or underneath the general example over here. And notice that the HTML font thing, this looks like in Notepad++, this is Courier, is this font Courier new, so it looks like Notepad, and then my other font is Arial that I like to use, but that's up to you guys. Um, and what else do we see that was new? Well, those three sets of tags sort of just broke the table into general chunks. And then we started entering um, entries using a bunch of different headings. The TH was the table heading, and it makes the entry bold. So if I were to use this, heading 1 and heading 2 were bold. Now, a natural question might be, could I use TH but in the body? Could I use TH down here instead of TD? And the answer is absolutely yes. It just makes it would make R1 E2 there, that text in there, a little bit bold. So TH and TD, almost the same thing. So that's the next thing, of course, um, next thing is TR, which are, I got to get rid of this thing now. I'm just going to delete that so it doesn't keep going down. Um, the TR is the table row. So each time we have a TR and an NTR, that shows that's a row in our table, a row in our table. And then TD, the start and end tags TD are the table data. And as it says there, these are the individual entries or cells. Okay? And please get this into your notes. Later when we do a quiz or a test, that you'll want to have this somewhere so you're not looking back. This is a good note to have, TD table data. And I've got an example here. And I've got some more notes to make, but I want to show you an example. So here, notice I got the TH, and then there's all this, a whole bunch of styling stuff as well that you can put in there. And a couple of things that I wanted to mention is that the table data can be just about anything. Okay, the table data can be, this one is a link, to TSN website. It can be an image, right? It can be an image. It can even be a list. All right, and I want to show you what this looks like actually. Where is it? Table time. It's this one right here. And this one, it looks terrible, but I'll show you what I mean. There's the link. There's the picture. There's the list. And there's an entry, by the way, that I used for TH instead of TD, the 19, see TH instead of TD, and that just made it a little bit bold, and that's fine. The other thing I want to point out about this code, besides the output looks terrible, I realize that looks terrible, that this first row had 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and the other ones didn't. And HTML was just able to sort of figure it out, and that was one of the reasons why it didn't look very good. But it'll figure it out. It's okay to have rows with different lengths. So this one had 5 entries, and the other ones only had 2, and HTML was be able to figure it out, even though that's not very good style. Okay, what other? I had some points there that I made. Let me see here. Table notes. Table notes. You're typing along here. Just about anything can be put into a table data: links, pictures, lists, etc. And I showed you that on this cruddy version, that we had some text, but we also had links and we had pictures and lists. Almost anything can be put into a table. You can mix and match row lengths, and that was the idea of, this row had 5 columns and this one only had 2. This one's really only got 1, and we figured out how to stretch that, and I'll talk about how to stretch one entry over. This one's over 4 columns in just a second. Maybe you remember it from the Code Academy videos. You can control appearance with inline CSS declarations. So anything like the text color, the font, all that stuff that we had before, we can control just by putting it in the start tag of each of the entries. And so, every new little bit of HTML we learn, it builds on our old HTML. It's not like it disappears. Other start tag declarations that we saw that are new. So we saw a border one, and the border one happens in the table heading. Notice if you tried to change the table border later on, it wouldn't work. Okay, it has to be in the table heading to get that. Well, it's not that nice looking, but if you goof around with the the style, you get goof around with that, you can change what the table looks like, and that's kind of nice. We had width, controlling cell width, and where did I do that? So there, the King Kong, I that entry, I made the width a certain number of pixels and a certain height, and that's what, the height. Actually, I think it fit the picture in there, but I can control the width. And notice, I think what I did later. Notice that I made this width 300. This width was 50. This width was 300. And what HTML does, it just picks the biggest width. Okay, so this one it would ignore and it would go with the biggest one. And if you leave that out, I'm pretty sure it'll just use the biggest text and then squish all the text in there. It's probably better to set the width and then you can control it. Um, More notes. So when I say start tag declarations, by the way, that's ones that go inside here. Remember, the CSS ones are style equals blah, 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 blah. And these are other ones. Column span. This call span, that's how I got, where was it? The call span equals 4. So in the heading, the famous monster one, how I got that to span 4 columns was using that little start tag declaration call span. Call span will span an entry over a number of columns. We saw that in Code Academy. Get that into your notes. Is there one more? A few CSS inline style declarations we saw that are new, and there were a whole bunch of them. So it says, remember, these are all in a style equals put declarations here command. So back in the text, it's right there, style equals there. Where else did I do this? Maybe not anymore here. I think it was maybe in the next one I goofed around with the style. Yeah, all here. So style equals, and then there was a whole bunch of them in there. Background color, width, height. Those were all ones that we were used to, but we also saw some new ones. This border bottom, padding, border collapse. These are all things that control the appearance of our tables. And I'm not too worried about the beautiful appearance of tables. We'll have another crack at all this table stuff when we do CSS. It says CSS styling for tables is almost endless. There's so many of these style equals CSS inline commands. I'm not too worried about it. Okay, don't get too hung up with making your table look absolutely perfect yet. Okay, fine. Last thing that was in the HTML3 were the divs and spans, and the divs and spans were pretty cool, I thought. And the divs allows us to divide up a page into large parts to be styled separately. So we use this to say, okay, and then I put CSS inline command declarations in here, and then everything in here would have that style. The difference between the divs and spans, of course, spans were for a small chunk of text, right? So a couple of words, if you want it to have a different style, we'd use span, and then we'd put the style declaration in here, right? Style, and this is going to goof up my equals, and then whatever we wanted to change, background, text color, whatever, would go in there. And that's how we would change just a few words if we wanted to. Notice, there's more than one way to accomplish the same thing, and watch your indenting and nesting. When we start having pages that are more complicated, you can't just have it all in a line. It's impossible to read. Make sure, I'm going back to an example here, make sure you have some indents, right? So in this one, notice Um, I've divided it into two. I've got two divisions there, and notice uh, I've set the width and height. The height I've set to a number of pixels, but the width I've just said 25%, and the second one I said 50%. And I want to show you what that looks like or what that means. Now where is it? Is this it? Yes. So this one, this chunk here goes with this first div, and it's 25% of the window. And notice if I change the width of the window, it's going to change the width of those divs, those divisions. Right? This one was 50%, and notice looks like about half of the width of the window is that width, and there's the background color. Notice that the stuff underneath there, you're probably wondering, well, what happened with this? How did you get the divs to be side by side? Well, I didn't. What I did is I set up a table. I set up a table and then had those data be a certain size, 50 pixels, 50 pixels, 150 pixels, and 50 pixels. And that's why, and they were side by side. The table, whoops, that's a table. And when I change the width of the window, the table still stays fixed. Okay? And so we're getting more complicated, but be patient. Almost anything you want to see happen on your web page, you can do now, folks. The assignment, I think, is posted either on today's stuff or tomorrow's stuff, the new assignment, and then we'll click away at Code Academy, and very soon it'll be time for another quiz, and pretty soon we're going to be heading into Unit 2 on CSS. Hopefully, hopefully you got. I think that's all I wanted to say. Yep, that was it. Hopefully you paid attention for 17 minutes. A bit of a long note, but it's good for you to take notes, folks. Now I'm going to stop talking.